Welcome everybody, how you doing? And this is going to be a shorter than usual live stream. I'm going to pick up this topic on Tuesday evening. I've got a special guest and a special live stream tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Pacific and 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about the documentary movie Sheltered Mercy. But tonight, right now, we're going to take our first of many discussionary cracks. How do you like that, discussionary cracks? That's a cool way of saying episodes talking about the 2019 NFL Combine. All right, this is the first. And I'm going to start off with, you see what the title is. You see what kind of fight I'm trying to pick here. You see it? Yeah, I'm picking a fight, man. Why? Because, look, I don't care what anybody says. Nick Bosa has no business, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, being at the top of your draft board. The man was injured. He didn't play last season. I don't care if you say, well, it was September. Look, I don't care. He did not clock in a full list of games, okay? I mean, he just didn't do it, okay? So you're telling me that I'm supposed to to come in and I'm supposed to buy the idea that because you say Nick Bosa's the guy, that I'm supposed to buy that he's the guy. It's amazing how all of this is, the angels and devils. Hey, John Akala, look, Montez Sweat is a better defensive end than Nick Bosa. All right? Montez Sweat, but the guy who really helped himself in this draft, I mean, I'm sorry, the guy who really helped himself in this draft is the guy that really is the fastest linebacker, and that's Delvin White of LSU, not the other Delvin in Michigan. The Delvin White that's 6'1", okay, who predicted he was going to run a 4.4 40 and did, okay. That guy who is the first Butkus Award winner. Yeah. See, in all this, you really have to turn around and ask yourself, if you hear a lot about a particular player, ask yourself, who's the agent? Look at Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray had as his agent none other than the legendary Scott Boras. And if you would say, wait, he's baseball. Hey, Patrick and Blackwood, how you doing? I would say you are correct. Scott Boras is a baseball agent. So then, guess what? Kyler Murray decides he's going to switch and go be a quarterback of the National Football League. So he gets a new agent, right? So Kyler Murray, all right? Kyler Murray lands as his new agent, all right? None other than the same agent that Geno Smith fired when he was being drafted. You hear what I just said? The same agent that Geno Smith fired, Eric Burkhart. That's right. So just a warning to Kyler Murray if he happens to see this. Dude, if you fire your agent, he will go ballistic and leak to the media some crap that he may not like about you. Because Eric Burkhart is that kind of guy. Because he did it to Geno Smith. All right? I'm just saying. Just as a warning out there for Kyler Murray himself, Kyler Murray's family, Kyler Murray's fans, the guy that he selected to rep him, Eric Burkhart, is a guy who would turn on him in the media if he fires him. Okay. So, just have your lawyer ready for any possible cease and desist, defamation, or character lawsuit you might think about filing. Just want to get that out there, all right? But my point is, Kyler Murray has had Scott Boras. Now he has Eric Burkhardt. Boras was a master of the media, period. And so we take a look at Nick Bosa. We say, okay, Nick Bosa. Who's Nick Bosa's agent? Why am I hearing so much about Nick Bosa? All right. And sure enough, Nick Bosa signed with his agent. College career, he signed with his agent back in November. And who is the agent for Nick Bosa? I believe it is. I'm going to take a guess before I look, because I'm looking at it right now just to make a point. But I'm going to take a guess that the agent is none other than that. Give me a drum roll. Do I have a drum roll? Do I have a drum roll? C-A-A. What does it spell? CAA, Creative Artists Agency. And yeah, Nick Bosa signed with Creative Artists Agency, okay, as did a number of players. So check the agent. The reason why I say that is because there's this habit, it looks like it to me, all right, of some guys getting, like, for example, all right, some guy is getting a little bit too much rep. All right, so that's Nick Bosa's agent. So you look at Dwight Haskins, all right? Dwight Haskins. Now, I've heard a lot about Dwight Haskins. Could it be that Dwight Haskins' agent is also the Creative Artist Agent, Creative CAA? All right. All right, could it be that? Dwight Haskins' agent. Let's see here. Typing it in. And no, he signed with David Mogates of Athletes First. Ooh, wait a minute. Athletes First. Another organization very good at getting pub for his clients. So is Lee Steinberg. Should have signed with Lee. All right. So look at, my point is this. There's some people, Lee Steinberg doesn't do that. Lee has a client, he's great. Lee is great, and I say this because he's my friend. But then, of course, since 1998. But I was going to say, then, of course, I don't think I would know him as well if he had been that kind of guy. Lee has never played the game like that. He is great at getting publicity for his clients, but not in a way where he could be accused of payola, okay? Lee's a straight shooter, and I think sometimes to Lee's fault, okay? But the Lord has blessed him with some great clients, like David Stills, and I think he's going to do quite well once again this year with his West Virginia product, among others. Now, Nick Bosa was ranked #1 on everybody's board who didn't look at the draft, not mine. So you can't have him at #1 now. You just can't. I mean, you can't. You can't say he's the best player there. You couldn't say that with a straight face going in without a body of work to show for his senior season. You just say, well, you know, you don't know how his body is changing except that he's injured. You don't know how he's really going to recover from that injury once, as they say, live bullets start being shot, all right? So I don't know. I want to know, all right, I've talked enough. I want to know what you think. I am really fired up about this. Nick Bosa is not #1, and, you know, Brian Baldwin was popping off about Rashawn Gary, saying, well, what is it that makes him a top 10? Well, wait a minute. Tell me what it is that doesn't make him a top 10. You know, it's one thing to put that out on Twitter and say, well, he shouldn't be a top 10, Rashawn Gary out in Michigan. But then he puts this out there, but he doesn't explain why he's not. And then what Brian does, he cherry picks these examples rather than giving me a numerical representation. Okay? You know, I know people are paid to have opinions, but yeah. do you have to be that? And there's nothing, look, I have nothing against Brian Baldinger, although he may, I hope doesn't think that I do. I don't, all right? But I disagree. I can disagree. It's fun to disagree. Hey, man, what say you about this? Hey, man, what say you about that? We had a nice little joust about, Brian and I, about Sam Donald. And then Sam went and threw, what? He had a weird game against the Lions starting out. I said he wasn't going to do well, and on balance, I was right. What I told Brian Baldinger, that I unfortunately tweeted, hey man, you're right about Donald. Donald is a basic good prospect, okay? But I felt that he was drafted too high. And unlike Lamar Jackson, who I felt was drafted too low. And so I felt they put Sam in, and I don't think Sam is ever going to be that guy. I just don't, okay? I mean, he has no choice but to be the starter because you put him in there. You keep force-feeding him the starting job. But had Teddy Bridgewater led the New York Jets, the Jets would have been in the playoffs last year. I'm telling you, all right? The Jets made a huge mistake, and yet for marking NFL inferior black quarterback reasons, they shipped him off to New Orleans on the bench. He's too valuable a talent to stay on the bench. And Sam Donald did nothing, and what happened is exactly what I said was going to happen. The Jets are going to finish maybe 4-12 or 6-10. They're going to blame Todd Bowles. They're going to fire him. They're going to get some guy in, Adam Gase, who really has no business having that position for the second time. Sorry to say. He's not going to do well. People are going to make fun of his eye rolls and everything. He's going to get fired in another 3 years. What a waste. What a waste of time. What a waste of money. Okay? Adam Gase is a fantastic offensive coordinator. Head coach. So anyway, now it's up to you to set me straight. So here I go from most recent on back. All right. Patrick and Blackman says, for wide receivers, I like DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin from Ohio State. Paris Campbell was the fastest. DK was okay, but Paris Campbell, hello? Paris Campbell, I like speed, okay? I want speed. I want a guy who quite literally jumps off the tape, like, all right? The fastest guy out there, bar none, Paris Campbell. It wasn't Metcalf, it was Campbell. So give me him. Prime Purpose says we can also try and get Darius Smith and the Ravens young and talented. Joe Logano, Lascar. Pride and Purpose says I like the wide receiver Campbell from Ohio State. Thank you. Keep an eye on him. Raider says I hope we could drive Marquise Brown with 27 round pick and pick up Antonio Brown, his cousin. Jay Will says, what's up? These linebackers and linemen displayed exactly why mobile quarterbacks are so important in the future of the NFL. Didn't they, though? I mean, imagine a defensive end who's 6'6", 245 pounds, and runs a 4.4 40. That is crazy. Then, hey, who's his match? Tyree Jackson, 6'7", 240 pounds, runs what? A 4.59 40. That's not bad, okay? John Acala wants Josh Allen. Okay. And Patrick and Blackman says that Metcalf has speed and size. Yeah, he does. But here's the thing. I want, if you give me a choice between a guy who has speed and size, but a guy who's even faster, but a little shorter, give me the guy who's a little faster. Okay? Give me that guy. Because, look, Paris Campbell is only 2 inches shorter than DK. Paris is only 2 inches shorter. So, all right? So, 2 inches. Okay? 2 inches shorter. All right? Now, if it were 3 inches, all right, now you're talking, it was 6'1" versus 6'4". Okay. I get that. Or 6'1" versus 6'5". Oh yeah, but yeah, I don't know. No, no, no. So Joseph Amenderes. Joseph says, has any running back in recent history beat out Bo Jackson's 4.1340? No. In fact, no. No running back. No. My take, G Money Raider says, I want to see who the Raiders pick up in free agency before I make my draft picks. What do you think? I want to follow your logic a little bit. Here's my thought is this, okay? And my question to you is this. What kind of template do you have? And this is a question I would ask Mike Mayock. You know, what kind of template do you have for the organization? In other words, based on the type of scheme you are going to run, not you personally, but the coaching staff, and what that scheme calls for. For example, if you're going to run or continue to run the 4-down lineman, 1 gap, that calls for a person who has strong lower get off, all right, who can simply shoot gaps very quickly, who ideally has a great record of downing running runs for losses in college. Okay, that's what you're looking for. Who has that? All right, that shapes your template. If I'm looking at a person who's going to do that, then I'm looking at Mr. Sweat, because of that 4.4 speed and that cone drill gives me comfort that I can put him in a 1-gap system and he can make my system shine. All right. Enigmatic Elephant, obviously not his real name, says, how is Bosa a loser? Simple. Person whose real name is they're not afraid to, whose real name they're afraid to use. Bosa was ranked #1 in a number of boards. He was injured. He was not the combine standout, okay? And that's it. So you got a guy who basically missed the season because he was injured, all right? Wasn't the combine standout, and yet he's #1. So where do you go when that happens? You go down. So you're the biggest loser. That's it. Because you have all these other people who went up. You have a group of defenders that have set, as a whole, speed records that, by the way, you didn't contribute to. Your 40 was a 4.98? Wasn't even as fast as Khalil Mack. So I don't... 4.86, excuse me. Wasn't even as fast as Khalil Mack, who, by the way, was equaled by the gentleman out of Kentucky, okay? So he was the biggest loser. He's not going to be the #1 pick. Nick Bosa is not going to be the #1 pick. Straight out. Sorry. So Joseph says, as mentioned in my last question above, I really like Darrell Henderson from Memphis State as a running back. Tell me more about him, and I'll look him up as well. Jeremy Berry says, don't the Raiders need to draft a quarterback, a wide receiver first? Yeah, I think the Raiders do. I think the Raiders need to think about a heir apparent for Derek Carr without sending the message that they're going to replace him. Now, some say that's Kyler Murray. Others, like myself, I say that they should go after Tyree Jackson because he's cheaper. Kyler Murray, you're going to be spending #1 money. And right now, the Raiders really have to, here's the situation with the Raiders, all right? Josh Allen's 40 time was exactly 1/100th of a second faster than Khalil Mack. He was 4.64, whereas Khalil Mack was 4.65. Now, getting back to Derek Carr, and look, the Raiders have to pay Derek Carr $20 million. So, even though I think it was completely BS and shows the major problem with journalism today, aside from the fact that journalists keep running around saying, I'm a journalist and, you know, I'm important. Okay. Aside from that is this tendency to say, if this guy calls himself a journalist, hey, you know, I was in the bathroom doing the #2, and then I heard this guy outside saying that Derek Carr is being shopped around. I think that's what I heard. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm hyperbolizing because basically this fellow put on Twitter that he overheard someone saying this is the combine. You don't know who was talking. You don't know who he heard. He could have heard, you know, he could have heard the Coke pouring person over there, or maybe the person that happened to be shoving out the Mrs. Fields cookies. Not an unimportant position because you hear everything, all right? But my point is, don't even put that out there if you can't confirm it. You know? If I put out something, it's from, when I say it's a well-placed source, that term well-placed source is generally cover for the person who is actually in the right place to make the decision or the call, whose name I cannot use because I don't want to get them in trouble. So when I say well-placed source, it doesn't necessarily mean the person standing next to the action. I refer to the person who's in the middle of the action, causing the action, okay? That's the way I roll. I don't know about anybody else. I don't know about you. That's the way I roll, okay? So, so for that person to do that with respect to something so sensitive as the future of Derek Carr, I thought was ridiculous. Here is the reason why, having said that, such news does have a tad of credence to it. The Raiders owe Derek Carr $20 million should they choose to keep him. And the problem is that the Raiders have a money crunch due to Las Vegas Stadium. All right? Now, I don't care what you say. I don't care if this makes you angry. They do. This is a continuation of what happened last year. Now, yeah, the salary cap is better, but that's for existing players, okay? And, well, adding players. But my point is this. The Raiders have 3 picks in the first round. The dilemma for the Raiders, the real dilemma is, how do you get the most value out of 3 picks when current history suggests you can't afford to sign them all? You obviously have to get rid of 2 of the picks, turn them into 1, or trade down, and add. Trade down and add going down, all right? If the Raiders trade down and add going down, a lot of fans like yourself will be very disappointed, because if the Raiders trade down and come out of the first round pick with a low first round choice, from a perspective of marquee choice, you're going to be pissed off, because you're not going to understand they're not having enough money, and they're not going to tell you they don't have enough money, except that John Gruden will give you a hint that every player, and he did say so last week, every player the Raiders sign has to be handled with respect to financial considerations. And I'm paraphrasing. In other words, hey, look, do we have the money? Do they want too much money? All right? So be prepared. Be prepared for that possible outcome. All right? Pride and Purpose says, we really can use a stud. Devin White is my pick. And I think, frankly, that the Raiders should trade down. They should get White if they can. Trade down. Pick up Tyree Jackson. Although, you know, here's the thing. Here's the problem. Do you pay, if you're going to pay Derek Carr $20 million, you got to let go of one of those picks. All right? And Patrick says, I say trade down the 27th pick. I think you might be, well, here's the thing. I think the Raiders should should somehow stay in a position where they can get Jackson. Maybe switch positions. Go up one out of the 27 to make sure they get him. And then get Devin White. Get 2 of those picks and get rid of 1. Maybe move up a bit. But where I would need clarification on is the ability of the Raiders to sign, because I don't think they can, to sign 3 picks in the first round, given the financial heft that they're carrying with the stadium. All right? That's the question in my mind. Okay, that really is. And you could also think of it this way. You know, the Raiders have a core that they want to maintain. So if you have Arden Key, and you add Arden Key and then Sweat, that gives you a good set of edge rushers for the future. And then Devin White gives you that speed linebacker that you've coveted for a long time. There's Antonio Brown that's available, but can you afford him? See, that's the thing. The Raiders are in this position where their eyes can get bigger than their stomach real fast. All right? And they have to build not just for NFL 2019, you would think they want to march to the Super Bowl, but also for Las Vegas in the future. So the question is, and I'm not going to be able to figure it out tonight, but I think it's a question for the week. What's the best combination of players? How should the Raiders think about this? I personally think that the Raiders need to get a quarterback cheaper, all right? Either if Jackson is available, then I like Trace McSorley. But they need to get somebody in there. You need a young gun. Jackson gives them, I think, the best. He has the best upside of anybody, period. Straight out, all right? He can wind up starting this year and do exceptionally well. I have that much confidence in Tyree Jackson's ability, his capability of picking up instruction on the fly from what what little I've seen, all right? I'm calling it. Now, I'm calling it. But I'm not of the opinion that the Raiders can afford all 3 picks. So you either take 2 of them and move up. So you take 2 of them and move up. Then you have to get somebody that is going to be your impact person. And is that Mr. Sweat? All right? Or is that either DK Metcalf? So you take, okay, so here's let me lay this out. So you take the 2, you move up, you take DK Metcalf. Okay? Then go down and get your Jackson. So there you go. I'm going to stop in 7 minutes, folks. It's just 1:23. I don't read your comments, they get on stepping. Jay Will says, Patrick Willis used to chase down wide receivers when he first got in the league. Yep. And Gucci says, can White, White gets compared to Willis. That's a lofty comparison to live up to. Can White duplicate that? Well, I don't see why not, okay? The question is, why can't he, why can't when he was brought in, he was brought in to play more inside linebacker. I don't get the Raiders are going to play that. They're going to play more 4-1, as Tom Landry used to call it, which is basically 4 down linemen, 1 linebacker. All right, and then so many defensive backs, or 4-3-4, right, which was their standard alignment. But the middle linebacker was always the dominant player, and the person that was down for down. And I would think that's the kind of person I would want Devin White to be in my system. And Jimmy Berry says Patrick Willis was a good, underrated cover linebacker as well. Jesus Sosa says, Bosa ain't no combine dude. He ain't no loser. Well, it's not that Bosa is wait, you're mixing things, okay? When I say biggest loser, I'm not speaking about him personally at all, okay? So surely I hope you're intelligent enough to realize that, okay? What I'm saying is that I don't, and Gucci says, trust the tape, don't get carried away with numbers. But Gucci, the tape is numbers. What are you saying? You got to clean that one up. Patrick Blackman says, the ace in the hole is Amir Hall if we can't get Jackson. Yes, absolutely. Amir Hall should have been at the combine. He's definitely a magic talent. and the Raiders should bring him in without question. The modern day Doug Williams is Amir Hall, straight out. My money Raiders says, I still believe the Raiders will go after an offensive lineman. Well, they may be. I'm not saying, look, I'm not making a prediction about what the Raiders will do. I'm telling you what I think the Raiders should do. There's a huge gulf of difference between how they think about the draft and how I think about the draft and their needs, okay? As I would hope you would have enough confidence in your point of view to say what you think the Raiders should do. But I am not predicting what I think the Raiders are going to do in my draft. I will. Yeah, sure. You know, I'll make one, but I'll make one of what I think they should do. Because I'm that kind of guy. All right, it's 1:26, folks. I'm going to be bowing out in a few minutes. Thank you, My Take G. Appreciate that. Prime Purpose says, move back, get Devin White, Paris Campbell, 24th, 27th, Montez Sweat, early second round. I don't think Sweat's going to be around by then. Sweat's going to be gone. You do not have a defensive end with that kind of, that kind of speed. That's a first rounder. That's bona fide, okay? I mean, that's bona fide. Markham, that's it. He gone, all right? But I'm telling you, Nick Bosa will fall. He'll fall to the mid-first round, I would think, okay? By the time all is said and done. Between Dwight, okay, maybe no Bosa goes earlier, but that would be hype. I can't see him going into any pro day and blowing anybody else away, considering all this other talent that's around here, to the point where he elevates himself to where he was. That's not happening. Okay? So maybe he comes down to the Bucks at number 5. That could happen. But if it's Bucks at number 5, why wouldn't they just take Sweat? Okay? And Pride and Purpose said it best. Bosa's talented, but I believe he's been pumped up. He has. Okay? Rob Iman has Josh Allen going to the Niners. The Bucks could see. All right. There's a lot of defensive talent out there. So, you know, but my point is this. Bosa will fall. That's why I say he's the biggest loser, because he was on the pedestal. He had nowhere to go but down. All right? Okay, folks. See you tomorrow night, Monday night. Different show. It's about, well, it's still live stream, but my friend Leslie Silver, you would say, who is she? I've known Leslie since 1986. Leslie's husband, Mike Silver, I've known since 86. Met them both at Cal. We're all old blues. She has produced an incredible documentary called Sheltered Mercy. And Sheltered Mercy is about her and Sean Papillion, who's the cameraman, her interviews with many different people who involve the homeless community in and around Sacramento. It's a conversation that I'm going to have, I believe needs to be had, as does Leslie, who's a clinical psychologist. And I want to find out not just about the movie and what combination of forces caused her to make it, but what she learned and what kind of lessons her findings hold for society in our future. She even has had the opportunity to interview California governor and friend of mine, and hers and Mike's, Gavin Newsom, in it. So I'll have excerpts from the movie. We'll talk for about an hour tomorrow, 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please spread the word. Join us. All right. Quite excited to have her. Then on Tuesday, we will pick up this conversation again. All right. Okay, folks. See you tomorrow. Please, just come in just for support. Just, you know, say hi. Tell her, you know, hey, I'm going to check out your documentary. Tell her you watch her husband on the NFL Network and you just come in to show support. How's that? Anything to, you know, help build up the conversation about this.